Who is the biggest beneficiary with the Mike Williams retirement? How do we handle Rashee Rice knowing that he could get suspended this year or he might not get suspended this year? And what do we do with one Jordan Addison who has now pled guilty to his vehicular offense for the Vikings? We've got a great show for you. Scott Fritz, the two-time FFPC League champ, as well as 2025 Pros versus Joe's drafter, is going to join us here tonight. I'm Eric Balkman. Ferrell Elliott is here. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
The pressure, I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we've got a lot to get to, a couple of big-time pieces of news that I alluded to at the top of the show. We're also going to get into Bucky Irving and whether he is a smart draft at ADP right now. How are we handling Darnell Mooney in this Michael Penix-led Falcons offense, and so much more. I want to remind you that if you want to connect with us on X, you can do so at hsffhour. Of course, I'm at Eric Balkman on the X. You can check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Facebook.com/hsffhour is where to go if you want to connect with us there. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, all of the tweets, X posts, and emails coming up later on in the fantasy feedback segment in the part of the program tonight. I want to thank our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course our producer and mutual friend Rob, who are making this show happen tonight. Making it happen is what FFPC players are doing in the 2025 FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament. $1 million grand prize is at stake. You're going to get a 3-pack for $1,000, so that's a $50 discount on every third team you pick up. Drafts off and running now, both live and slow. 7 Bananas promo is live, where you can get free tournament teams, free main event teams, free high society teams, and a free jungle safari for 4 if you carry it that far, if you keep getting that 7 pick multiple times in a row. You can join our flagship event. It is the FFPC Main Event, $1 million grand prize with a $6 million plus prize pool. Slow and live drafts running there as well. The FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournament off and running as well. Our Best Ball Tournament features a $300,000 grand prize. New for this year, a $100,000 runner-up grand prize at just $125 to enter. If you want to enter the Superflex tournament, it's a $35 entry, and you can win $100,000. Drafts available at 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks, and Dynasty Startups also going on at myffpc.com. Entry fees range from $100 to $5,000, 2,000 plus leagues. None have ever folded in 15 years. Check it out at myffpc.com. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention we are 9 days away from the early draft slot deadline. If you are drafting in the FFPC Main Event later on in August or early September and you want your draft slot early, make sure your teams are paid off by July 27th, and you will get your early draft slot. You'll know where you're drafting in the main event on August 3rd. So you're going to have a month plus, depending upon when you draft, to prep for that and try to win that $1 million grand prize. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. Oinker is here tonight as well. He says hello to his Uncle James and his Uncle Scott that I know are watching. We've already seen a message from James in the chat room right now tonight. And speaking of uncles and friends and family, we have everybody's favorite uncle, the commissioner of the the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com, the incomparable Ferrell Elliott. I welcome him aboard tonight. Ferrell, happy Friday to you and good evening.
Balky, it's good to be aboard with you. How are you doing? You've had a big week of broadcasting, have you not?
I have, and it's going to get busier next week because we are kicking off Pros versus Joes on Sunday, and I can confirm that this Sunday night's broadcast on July 20th, which I'll tell the listeners and viewers more about later on, that is the only show that Terp is not going to be able to join us. But he will be joining us for the other 5 broadcasts. So it'll be you and me on Sunday, and whoever else wants to drop by in that draft. I'm sure we'll hear from some of the competitors in that as well. But yeah, man, I mean, like, it's July. We should be busy. Busy is good. We're cranking out a lot of content. We've had a great audience for all these shows, and we have another great audience tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun talking ball with you.
No Terp on Sunday night.
No Terp this Sunday.
The audience will be crestfallen. They will. Team
Terpoli will be upset that he will not be on. And I know everybody always loves the relationship that you guys have on the air. It's always fun. Yeah. And he loves you too. Mm-hmm. Let's get into it right away, Ferrell. I want to start off on the left coast. Daniel Popper from The Athletic has reported that the Chargers are now relying on Trey Harris to be their starting X receiver after Mike Williams decided to hang up his cleats. Apparently, this took the team by surprise. The Chargers were open to having Trey Harris earn starting snaps early in the season if it took to him quickly and if he came on fast. I don't think they ever expected him to be, them to be counting on him so much early in the season with Williams hanging it up. They really don't have an X receiver. I mean, Quentin Johnston has already demonstrated that he probably doesn't have it within him in order to play that starting X receiver opposite Ladd McConkey. But now all of a sudden we have an interesting Trey Harris situation on our hands. And I'm going to bring this up right now on the Big Gorilla ADP, which is courtesy of FantasyMojo.com, at FantasyMojo on X. Darren Armani, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes Challenge. Anytime we cite ADP with the FFPC, it's all due to FantasyMojo.com. If you're playing in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a subscription to FantasyMojo.com. Trey Harris, on average, Ferrell, before this announcement, was going at the 12.03 on average. He has gone as high now as the 10.03. He has been bumped up to the early 10th round. He was going as wide receiver 55 before this. I expect him to comfortably be in the top 50, maybe even the top 45 before the end of next weekend. And I'm kind of excited to see what Trey Harris can do in this offense. I know it's Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, but the fact that Mike Williams is out of there, that Quentin Johnston has not been able to be very consistent through his first couple of years in the NFL, I think it's wheels up for Trey Harris. I'm excited about this player.
Where are you going to draft him, Balky?
I just said we went as
no.
Early.
Where are you going to draft him?
I know.
You're excited. Are you going to reach above that? Are you going to reach above Darren's report on him?
So for frame of reference, early 10th round is as high as he's gone since this news. And that's in the FFPC. That's not, that you only have to start 2 receivers. So if I'm drafting in that, yes, I would consider him in the mid-9th, the late 9th round. In the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, I think you got to start looking at him as an early 8th round pick at this point.
Okay.
At least I would be.
They have drafted again in Trey Harris, the same guy that they always draft. If you look, with the exception of little number 12 that they got out of Texas, and I think Jalen Reagor is there now. What's number 12's name? Is it Davis on this team? Smaller player, I think from Texas or SMU. My point is that they draft the same receiver all the time, and then they just don't throw him the ball. I'm going to really, by the way, I'm really going to miss Williams. But if Harris catches 50 balls, that'll be a big number for his rookie year in this offense that likes to run. What is he good at? He's got a good stutter step. He breaks tackles in the SEC. Coming out of Louisiana Tech and coming to SEC, it was a seamless transition for him, and I was very, very impressed. But he was in a throw-first, pass-happy college offense. Now, he's a player that overall lacks explosiveness. He's a 4.55 guy. He's going to win some contested catches, but I will wager that the corners in the NFL will test him more than those in the SEC did. Quentin Johnston's on this team. Des Fitzpatrick, a kid that played here locally at University of Louisville, same kind of receiver. This is who they are. This is who they draft, and they don't throw them the ball enough to make enough headway in fantasy football for us. That's my thought on this player.
The concern I think that you bring up, Ferrell, is warranted that maybe, and we'll talk about Najee Harris too in a little bit, but maybe the concern should not be for Trey Davis and his talent. The concern should be how much are they going to pass this year because of, number one, having a really good offensive line, number two, having Omari and Hampton and Najee Harris. I mean, their backfield is infinitely better than it was last year too. And then we're talking about Trey Harris having no shot at being the number one target on this team as well. So you got to go with God on this one a little bit. Like, things have to break right for Trey Harris. I still think he's a top 50 receiver this year. He might even be a top 40, top 35. I don't know. I think that's pushing it.
I don't know, but I love, he goes by Trey, but his given name is Cleveland Joseph Harris. If my first name is Cleveland and I'm rolling in the NFL, that's what I'm going with.
Darius Davis was the name of number 12
Darius Davis
for the Chargers. Yes.
Good play. I love him because he's just a change of pace ball player. He won't help us in fantasy, but man, that might be one of my very, very late best ball players. You might get one or two big score games out of it.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't fault you for doing it. He is out of TCU as well, so good call on that. We'll go from Los Angeles to Kansas City. Mark Maskey, who covers the NFL for the Washington Post, cited a source that said it's, quote, premature to conclude that Rashee Rice is going to be suspended this year. Now, Adam Schefter talked about this yesterday, that the NFL can now expedite its disciplinary process now that we know that Rice is having 5 years probation, 30 days in jail, likely to be a multi-game suspension. I mentioned this last night. Is that 2 games? Is that 6 games? I don't know. Maskey says we shouldn't just assume that the NFL is going to suspend him at this point this year. Now, he's right. I don't think we should assume it, but I'm definitely baking that into how I'm handling Rashee Rice in drafts right now. If he is out the first, let's say, 3 weeks of the season, nobody's on bye, it's easily replaceable then. So I think we have to take that into account. But Ferrell, people were going crazy for Rashee Rice before this. You look at the ADP in the FFPC Big Gorilla over the last 3 days. He went as high as the 305, or excuse me, he was going on average at 305. Since this news has come out, he has tumbled as late as the 508. He's on average going as wide receiver 13. I think he's going to settle in somewhere around wide receiver 16, wide receiver 17 until we get the official suspension news out of here. But if I'm drafting right now too, I think that there's something to be said about buying the dip on Rashee Rice. I certainly love him in the mid to late 5th round. I love him, quite frankly. I would be taking him in the late 4th round too. And I'm not necessarily bumping up Kelsey or Worthy. I think I'm still pro Rashee Rice on this, and I think I'm still taking the chances. I'm drafting here on July 18th. I think I'd still be taking a chance on him in the 4th round of FFPC leagues.
You are a man that does not live in fear, Balky. One of the many things that, you can't wear a beard like that and be fearful. But, we're in a situation where what's Schefter saying, by the way?
Schefter just reported that the NFL can now go ahead and dish out their punishment whenever they see fit, or at least start the process. He did not say anything was imminent on that at all.
That's who we got to listen to, because, he has like 3 earbuds in all the time. He talks to everyone. So whatever he says, that's what I want to listen to. So he's, look, I think this player is going to miss time. If you can draft this player and get to the bye week, start hitting, and then bring this player into your offense, you should be okay. So I could probably find someone I like better in the 5th round, but I can't find anyone that has a higher ceiling for when he plays than Rashee Rice. So I love what you're doing, Balky.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart way to play it. At least, listen, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that we just don't know about. There's a lot of missing information. We're still trying to piece it together. Now, once training camp starts, once the NFL weighs in on this, everybody's going to have that information. It's what you do with the lack of information until then in your drafts that really sets you apart from being a guy who does okay in his leagues to a guy who wins the $1 million in the FFPC Main Event or the Big Gorilla. One last topic I want to get to here, Ferrell, before we bring on Scott Fritz. Jordan Addison has decided to plead guilty to a, quote, lesser included vehicular offense. This according to Kevin Seifert from ESPN. Now, this guilty plea is an informal term known as, and this is out of, I don't understand this stuff. It's called wet reckless. So I looked this up. RotoWorld had this blurb. They looked it up on Cornell Law School. Wet reckless varies from state to state, and it's used when an individual who's charged in a DUI offense pleads down to a reckless driving offense. So that plea essentially removes all the alcohol-related charges, but you still acknowledge that they were initially present in this. Tim Younger, who is Jordan Addison's agent, said that Addison is going to pay a standard fine. He's going to complete not one, but 2 online courses. And then after that, he expects that the probation is going to be terminated early within 6 months. Suspension still possible there. This is a player that I think people were already baking in a potential suspension. I like him as wide receiver 38 at the 709 right now. He's going behind guys like Jawan Jennings, Chris Godwin, Chris Olave. I think there's a lot of upside with Addison. Even though McCarthy's throwing to him, Ferrell, I still like him as a mid to 7th round pick this year. And I've been drafting him in Kentucky as well. I have no fear when it comes to Addison. Again, if this suspension comes down, I'm assuming it happens early in the season, and those are some of the most replaceable weeks for anybody in fantasy football. I want to have him in play for me at the end of the season, which I think he's going to be.
I like the way you're thinking, Balky. And yes, that I'll tell you one thing that'll do. It'll keep you out of Canada for 10 years. You can't go to Canada if you got one of those. Mm-hmm. But I stand not that this player ever would. Yes, I think we're going to like the quarterback here more than we think we are. And the defense is improving in Minnesota. They're going to be in close games. They're going to flip the field and get possessions enough to make Addison a beneficial player. I like his escapability. I like his ball skills. He's maturing nicely. He gets past this. He'll be a good player.
He's going to be a good player. He already is a good player. I mean, this is a guy who has been picking up end zone targets at a rate that we have not seen in the NFL in several years. And I think that continues going forward this year as well. I want to get into tonight's guest, everybody's favorite part of the show, when we bring on somebody who is much more intelligent than we are, Ferrell. And this guy already has a pair of FFPC league titles to his name. And we're going to get to know him really well tonight because we're going to watch him draft live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour in the Pros versus Joes Challenge this Sunday night, where he is drafting number 4 in the Nirvana division, right in between Peter Overzet and Todd Burrows. Please welcome on to the show tonight, Mr. Scott Fritz. Scott, so good to have you aboard tonight. Good evening. Are you live in Las Vegas right now?
I actually am live in Las Vegas right now. Yes.
Fantastic.
In my hotel, as you can tell.
Right. Yes. So this is just like you needed a respite from the partying and everything going on. You're going to come do the show, and then I'm sure you're going to let your hair down after the show tonight.
At least till
out.
6 a.m. Yes, right. At least till 6 a.m.
Why are you out in Vegas right now? Curiously, is this a work thing or what are you doing?
No, I just came out to see a friend out here, actually. So I just quick trip out here. I was going to be out here a little bit longer, but then this draft popped up, and I tried to finagle my way to a different day, but that didn't seem like that was going to work. So then I ended up just changing my flight, taking a red eye back, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to draft against these guys.
Yeah, and now, you have to leave Vegas early, but you get to beat everybody in this draft.
We got to put one up for the Joes. Yes, we got to put one up for the Joes.
I want to ask you a ton of fantasy football questions, as does Ferrell tonight. Before we get to that, Scott, can you tell us what you're doing for a living when you're not winning these FFPC leagues and drafting in the Pros versus Joes Challenge?
So I am a pharmaceutical rep in Florida for a pharmaceutical company. I've been doing that for 25 years. And prior to that, I sold medical equipment to hospitals. So
got it.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on a wonderful career, and have a great weekend in Las Vegas. Last year about this time, we have this question very, very frequently on the show. And I believe it's because Balky is trying to find someone who can temper his enthusiasm for one Bucky Irving. His enthusiasm runs very, very torrid. And he was one of the first fantasy football players who was buying into this player from day one. And I've always enjoyed it. I don't understand this conversation that we seem to have floating around that he will not repeat his success from last year. Those numbers were fantastic. I expect him to be as good, if not better, as he plays in his second. second season. Balky, I still think is torrid. Does he have any reason, Scott, to be tepid on Bucky Irving?
No, I don't think so. And I'll tell you a story. Last year, I was in about 30 of the dynasty leagues in FFPC, and I was fortunate enough to draft Bucky Irving in about 14 of those. And, 3-4 weeks into the season last year, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to turn out so good. Mm-hmm. But as we all know, he's kind of took off. I think it was about like week 5 or 6. And then after that, it was like, full steam ahead. So I believe he is going to have, if not a better year this year. I think Rachaad White's going to be even less in the picture. He's going to be a free agent after this year. I think they're going to try to get Tucker a little bit more involved. Obviously, Bucky's a smaller back. I mean, he runs large, but they have to protect him. So I think, a second round value, especially, middle to the late into the second round is right where he's going in all the best ball drafts I've been doing.
So just curiously, as a follow-up on that, when you look at Bucky Irving, at least from a dynasty standpoint last year, Scott, why did you draft him so much? Like, what was it about him that you really liked? And then to piggyback even further onto that, was there any running backs in this year's draft that you think maybe didn't remind you of the type of player that Bucky Irving was, but could return similar fantasy value in their rookie years as well?
Well, last year, I was drafting him mostly probably in like the 3rd or 4th round, I would say. I didn't go back and look at any of those, but I feel like that's where it was. And, in these dynasty drafts, after you get through the second round, it kind of starts getting slim pickings. And that was my first real indoctrination into like a massive amount of dynasty leagues. This year, I'm in like 56 of them on FFPC now. And as far as a guy that I was looking at this year, I kind of like Brashard Smith. I don't know that he's got a lot in front of him, but, last year Bucky Irving had a lot in front of him as well. So, we don't know what's going to happen with Pacheco. So I kind of like Brashard Smith. And there's another guy that's not a rookie that I think we're going to get to later on that I'm really high on. He's like my number 1 owned player in all my dynasty leagues. And we'll talk about him in a few minutes, I'm sure.
Love that. Hey, here's a good Bucky Irving stat. Bucky Irving, 5'10", 198 pounds. Walter Payton, 5'10", 198 pounds.
You heard it here first. Ferrell Elliott says Bucky Irving is the next Walter Payton. I'm just
very
kidding.
Nice.
But that is interesting, Ferrell. That fun with numbers, fun with heights and weights. I get it. That's something that we'll keep in mind. Let's keep talking about the running backs here, Scott. The Vikings. So I'll just bring this up so everybody knows where these guys are going in drafts right now as far as the Vikings running backs go. Aaron Jones right now is being drafted as running back 27 at the 701. Okay, that's where he's going. Jordan Mason is not that far down. He's going as running back 33, so 6 running back picks later than Jones. Jones is a 701 pick. Jordan Mason an 804 pick. So the distance between these two, we talk about big gap, small gap running backs. This is becoming quite the small gap between Jones and Mason. However, I have to ask you, even with Mason rising up ADP, is he still the smarter play for people who want to invest in the Vikings backfield? Or is it flip back to Aaron Jones? How are you handling this in your drafts?
Well, Jordan Mason is the guy I just was talking about. He's my most owned guy across all those dynasty leagues. I own him in 41% of those leagues. So I think I have him 23 or 24 times. Last year, I was very high on him. Even when McCaffrey came back for those few games, I mean, there was people that were flat out cutting Jordan Mason in these dynasty leagues. And I was like, well, I'll pick him up. And I was, people were trying to dump him for anything. And I was acquiring him. So I'm very high on Jordan Mason. I feel like he runs very hard. And I think that he is the back to own in the Minnesota Vikings backfield this year. Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. Running backs can oftentimes confound us terribly in fantasy football. Let's go to a confounding organization in many, many ways in the Cleveland Browns. Bad news. We just continue with police blotter stuff. July 4th is tough on the NFL. Let's just face it. Quinshawn Judkins, bad news coming out of there. Let's turn the focus to Jerome Ford. Now, one of these years I'm expecting Jerome Ford to say a fond farewell to a friend and move on somewhere where they actually let him play. This player, to me, on a team that needs a lot of help, seems just to flash good numbers. Over 500 yards rushing last year. He catches around 40 balls a year. I would like a bigger sphere of influence and carries and opportunities for a player that, for a team that really needs someone to pick up the slack. Your thoughts on Ford? Is it just going to be not enough, or do you see possibilities of him moving in front of the young rookie for at least some snaps?
Well, I like Ford. Again, I was acquiring Ford that year that Chubb was out. I mean, I think, which I think was 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Ford did a great job, in my opinion. I don't know why the Browns saw the need to draft so many running backs this year. I'll tell you, I drafted a few Judkins in these dynasty leagues, and about 4 or 5 days ago, I started getting trade offers for Judkins, and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to get rid of them. But lately, with what's alleged, I have been dealing him off a little bit. I who knows what's going to happen with him. So,
hey, and when they weren't drafting running backs, they were drafting quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's right. So, if obviously if all three are there, I'm sure he's going to get some play. If only two of them are there, and Dylan Sampson is the other back I'm referring to at this point, but I think he's a little bit smaller of a back and more lined up for like a third down role. I think Ford can carry the rock, and move the ball for the Browns. I really do. He did it, like I said, 2 years ago.
Balky, what do we got to spend to get Ford in the Gorilla?
Running back 57, Ferrell, right now for Jerome Ford, 13-11 over the last 3 days. So I still think that's well worth it. He has ascended from where he was going, sort of late 14th, 15th round pick. Now he's entered the 13th round. Dylan Sampson has obviously climbed up as well. He is running back 51 at the 12-12. Judkins has fallen to running back 29 at the 708. So Judkins is still going above all those, these other guys. But Sampson and Ford certainly closing the gap in Cleveland as well. Scott, let's move on and talk about Atlanta. Kirk Cousins was the starting quarterback for the Falcons this time last year. No longer the case. Michael Penix is taking over there. Looked pretty all right at the end of last season, and has a couple of really talented players to throw to. I'm not going to mention the Kyle Pitts word. Oops, I just did. But he is throwing to Kyle Pitts this year. He's throwing to Drake London, who obviously is a lot of people's dark horse on leading the NFL in targets. But what about Darnell Mooney? Not a lot of people talk about Darnell Mooney this year as the number 2 wide receiver for the Falcons, and quite frankly, could be the number 2 pass catcher overall, depending upon how much you like Bijan Robinson. Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 50 at the 10:01 right now. What kind of a season is Mooney in for now that he has Penix throwing to him instead of Cousins?
A great season. I feel like the listeners are going to feel I'm a plant because these guys you're bringing up. Mooney is my number 1 owned wide receiver in those dynasty leagues. I love Mooney. I mean, I liken him a lot to Jordan Addison. He's got a number 1 receiver that's obviously going to get coverage shaded over to, London's side. So it's going to leave Mooney, maybe one-on-one. And I think he can beat one-on-one. And obviously he did a great job last year with Cousins. I don't know what his splits were with Penix for those last couple of games, but Penix can throw the ball. So I have all the confidence in Mooney. I'm drafting Mooney. You're right. He's going about in like the 9th, 10th round in the best balls that I've done. And that's where I'm getting him. And, he's one of my building blocks actually. So I love that guy.
He's 28 years old this year, guys, and I've always expected more. I've always wanted more from him. And, last year he'd have big games, and then the next week he would disappear. And it's you would really like to, on his way to 65 catches, it looked like it should have been more based on some of the games he had. He had a couple games over 100 yards, but I like the player too. I just sometimes think he might not be in the lineup when he has those 100-yard catches. So I really would like to see if we could see consistency. I don't care what it looks like. 5 catches, 60 yards. If we could just see consistency for the first 3 or 4 games of the year, man, it would be hard to keep him out of the lineup.
Yeah, and to your point, Ferrell, we have seen Mooney go a little bit higher. And excuse me, Scott, as you said, we're seeing Mooney go a little bit higher in best ball leagues where it doesn't necessarily matter
that's
like how spread out. But I mean, if you're playing in the FFPC main event or the KFFSC main event or anything like that, where you got to pick and choose the weeks you start Mooney, it can get a little bit more dicey. Hashtag better in best ball for Darnell Mooney this year. We'll see if that consistency gets better with Michael Penix. So I think what we have to move the focus to is Green Bay. Ferrell, I'm going to recuse myself from this question. As
yes, you must.
I am just like a short 25-minute drive from Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk about the Packers unbiasedly. So I'm going to let you talk about the Green Bay Packers with one Scott Fritz.
Well, you are the second most well-known on-air personality, or just general personality in the Appleton area, second only to the real Leroy. Right. But, it's a situation where with Scott, I got to apologize for this, but we've officially run out of questions. That's why I am now asking you about Tucker Kraft. I can't think of how many times we've talked about Packer tight ends. Now we had one of them that found the end zone 7 times last year, and we have reason to wave his flag for glory. But he also got 50 catches. Balky, how many damn tight ends in the league caught more than 50 balls last year?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm going to look that up.
We'll send a note to Darren and ask him if he'll look that up. But anyway, am I missing the boat here on this Tucker Kraft? Because I found more people that love him than feel like I do. I'm somewhat indifferent. And, somebody else can have those 50 catches as far as I'm concerned.
Well, real quick, I want to say that my friend Bentley and I visited Lambeau Field about a month ago when we went to the U.S. Open up in Wisconsin. We took a day trip and did the tour of that Lambeau Field and the Packers Hall of Fame, and it was amazing. I'll tell you that. Now let's get back to the talk about fantasy football guys. So do you think I like Tucker Kraft or do you think I hate Tucker Kraft based on my answer so far tonight?
I think that you certainly can't fall in the middle. It's one or the other.
He's my number 1 owned tight end.
Wow.
Dynasty leagues. And I'll tell you, I like this guy. His first year, he wasn't supposed to be the tight end. They thought Musgrave was going to be the tight end. Musgrave got hurt. Tucker Kraft took that job. Year 2, they thought Musgrave was going to come back and get that job, but he did not. And I like Tucker Kraft. I mean, he's going off the board in these best ball drafts. I don't know, somewhere around like tight end 11 or 12, I think, usually. Probably in like the 11th or 12th round. And if he's there, I'm taking him. Okay. And I'm just telling those pro guys on Sunday night to beware because I'll be looking for Tucker Kraft as well.
He is.
Those guys are home shivering right now anyway. I mean, you don't have to.
Well, and the other thing too is like that, and we'll talk more about this on Sunday when we start covering this draft. But I think the Joes take the tight end position more seriously than the pros, rightly or wrongly. So I have a feeling that, guys like Kraft they usually end up going to the Joes rather than the pros. Tight end 11 in the 9th round in the FFPC Big Gorilla, which is obviously non-best ball right now. But you're right, Scott. Tight end 11. Now I have been saying that I don't really trust any Packers pass catchers this year. When you're talking about managed leagues, it's tough. Like Jaden Reed could be a smash start one week, and he could have 4 points the following week. Tucker Kraft could be a top 5 tight end one week, and then next week see 3 targets. It's one of those things. So in best ball, I think it's a little bit different. I've drafted Kraft there. I've drafted Jaden Reed a few times. So I'm starting to Matthew Golden even made his way on one of my teams too. And I think that the one thing, and I know Luke Musgrave is healthy this year. I don't know how long that lasts. He's had some freak injuries. I don't know if they're necessarily, chronic things or recurring things. But I do think that if there's one player on the Packers that's going to be out there almost every snap as far as pass catchers go, it's probably Romeo Doubs, who is out there an obscene amount of time. But if there's another guy, it's Tucker Kraft, because this dude can do it all. Fantastic blocker. He does the tush push. He's the tush push representative for the Packers. Was last year. Was very successful on that.
Yep.
And just seems to have a nose for the end zone too. So I'm starting to like him. The fact that you can still get him at tight end 11 I'm all over that with you as well, Scott.
17 tight ends guys caught more balls than he did, and 10 more. The 10 guys behind him after 50, you can go 10 deep to find guys that caught 47. And we act like, he didn't really get a full year of work to get those numbers. Well, he has 70 targets. And, Balky, I defer to you as to what the Green Bay Packers have historically done with the tight end position, which to me is less than most teams. Am I right about this?
There's this. I always think this is wild when people talk about this, about when Aaron Rodgers moved on from the Packers and now he's with the Steelers, and there's this narrative out there like, oh, Rodgers loves his tight ends. He loves throwing the tight end. And I'm like, outside of 1 year with Robert Tonyan, outside of one preseason with Jermichael Finley, where it looked like he really was going to love to throw to Finley until Finley got that neck injury, he really hasn't thrown to the tight ends all that much. And I'll push back on this, Ferrell, a little bit with what you're saying with Kraft last year. 63 targets. He catches 46 of them, just under 700 yards. Remember, the Packers really shifted to a power running attack last year, and I believe the reason for that is because Jordan Love hurt his knee worse than he was letting on in that first game against Philadelphia. And the Packers were just forced to run the ball, and they were doing it pretty successfully. Then Love, when it seemed like he was recovering from the knee, then he hurts his groin. I just don't think he was right last season at all. And I think that changes this year. And I think a rising tide raises all boats. So even though Kraft was, as we look at the numbers, maybe a little bit underwhelming for tight end 11, I think he's much more likely to return tight end 10, tight end 11 this year than he was last year.
Scott, you are deep in the world of dynasty. Let me ask you the question this way. If Tucker Kraft was not a youthful player, would you still have the same kind of excitement for him that you do when you redraft?
You would have to tell me what his age is, but one thing I want to agree with Eric on is, like, I do feel the Packers had to run more out of necessity last year. And one thing that I should actually look up, it'd be interesting for me to know how many fewer attempts Jordan Love had last year versus the year prior to that, because I do feel like, he probably had a significant amount down. Now, if Kraft was, 30, like Kittle's age, 30, 31, I think I would still be after him because, tight ends, I don't think they take the wear and tear that, running backs do and, receivers to a lesser extent. Even though they're in the line and they're blocking more, I get all that. But
unless your name's Kittle. And then you get more than you take,
Tucker Kraft will turn 25 years young in November this year. Jordan Love in 2023 had 579 passing attempts. This past year, he had 425. So you're looking at a difference roughly about 150 fewer pass attempts from one season to the next.
Travis Kelce had 133 targets this year, but of course he's 70 years old in dynasty numbers.
That's true. Yes. Okay.
Well, we know they got to show him on TV for obvious reasons.
Yes.
You got
Tucker Kraft needs a better girlfriend or wife. I don't know if he's married. That's a good question. I think he is. I think he is married. Apologies to Mrs. Kraft if she's listening.
Oh, yeah, Scott, you stepped in it deep there, buddy. That's going to be all over the internet.
In May, Tucker Kraft got married to a woman named Bailey Jandal in an outdoor wedding in South Dakota. I'm looking at a photo of her right now. She's easy on the eyes. I'll tell you that.
Please accept my apology, Bailey. I did not know. I'm not a Packers fan.
Yeah,
he's in Las Vegas. He was just, he's kind of out of his mind tonight.
Okay, so now I'm falling down the Tucker Kraft wife rabbit hole. Gotta get away from that.
The show has gone off the rails.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
So from one tight end to a couple others, and I apologize for that masochistic segue. Not masochistic. What am I trying to say? Chauvinistic segue.
You're on your own.
Look, you get to the next question.
Misogynistic.
You're on your own.
God bless it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
As you can.
YouTube is demonetizing us as we speak.
Yes.
Okay. Jonnu Smith has made the trip north from Miami to Pittsburgh. He has obviously fallen in ADP since that has happened, Scott, but he is still ahead of one Pat Freiermuth. If I was looking at the mojo in the Big Gorilla, for Pittsburgh tight ends right now, I would tell you, Scott, that Jonnu Smith is now going as tight end 16 at the 1103. Pat Freiermuth is all the way down at tight end 28 at the 1607. So about 5 rounds, maybe 5.5 rounds separate these two players right now. We do know Arthur Smith likes using both tight ends in his offense. I would not recommend anybody grabbing both of these players on the same team. However, if you want to sprinkle some Smith here, sprinkle some Freiermuth there, I think that's a fine way to approach teams. What about you, Scott? How are you handling this? Are you willing to pay the draft capital upgrade on Jonnu Smith over Pat Freiermuth right now? It's separating, like I said, by about 5 rounds.
This one is tough. I would label myself a sprinkler on this one. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. I live in Florida. I hear from my Dolphin buddies all the time. You know, this was going on all summer that Pittsburgh wanted Jonnu Smith. So there must be a reason why Arthur Smith wanted him. I know Arthur Smith is, you know, not known for his passing game, although he does highlight the guys he likes. Obviously, Jonnu did it in Atlanta. And then, you know, Mike McDaniel did it with him down in Miami. So to answer your question, Eric, you know, if he's there, he's going to be a tight end 2 for me for sure. He's not going to be a tight end 1, obviously, even if I wait that long to go for tight end. So unfortunately, I don't have a really good answer for you on this one, other than I'm just going to label myself a sprinkler.
When I went for tight end, guys, you know, or when I would skip tight end and you try to grab one late and they start getting away from you, I could always lean into Freiermuth, who's being there and getting those 65 or so catches. I'm going to miss that crutch. Scott, this has been great. We got a lot of people in the chat tonight. My cousin Bentley Ferrell, a long lost.
That's my buddy. That's the guy that I went to Lambeau Field with.
Well, I'm obviously related to him. And then you know, the Fantasy Sopranos are here. That's great. And Bill Hollywood's here. A lot of guys that we're going to see first in Louisville and then out in Las Vegas at the Paris Hotel, which is what I'm getting ready for, the main event. But you are getting ready for the pros versus the Joes. And I would simply answer, if you ask me this question, what is your strategy in pros versus Joes? Well, you know, just show up, because you're you know, that will take care of the pros. And then you can do battle with the other 5 Joes. However, you may have a deeper strategy with that than that. Would you care to share it with us?
3 words. Al Davis. Just win, baby.
I love it. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I'm planning on winning, okay? I mean, I listened to JJ on the radio, Peter Overset. I mean, I told you I'm a rep, so I'm in the car a lot, and my radio is on Sirius Fantasy Channel 24/7. So, you know, I don't want to give too much away, even though I know those guys aren't listening. I have the number 4 pick, so at least I know I'm going to start off with at least one good guy.
Hopefully more than that, right? Hopefully you can string a few more.
Well, I know I'm going to get one good guy at number 4. So,
do you have any expectation of who you think is? I mean, because I'll tell everybody this right now. So in this draft, as Scott already said, he's picking 4th. You got another former guest of this show, Rick Raymaker, along with his co-manager, Andy Rule. They're picking 2nd. JJ Zacharyson is 1st, and then Overzet's 3rd. Do you have any inkling of what those guys are going to do and who they might leave you with at 4?
Well, I'm sure. I feel like it's probably going to go Chase, Bijan, and Gibbs, maybe. I don't know what order. So I'm thinking I'll probably get Jefferson. Somebody might take Jefferson. I don't know, but I think those are going to be the first 4 picks off the board.
And you got a tough draw because Overset is really a Joe. You know, he comes in as a pro, but he's really a Joe.
I think that's sort of his personality, and in many ways he is a Joe. But in many other ways he is a pro.
He's a great player that puts his money down in place.
Well, you know what's funny about Peter is I remember, you know, now he's with Fantasy Life and he's just crushing it and doing, you know, obviously ship chasing and everything. But I do remember several years ago at the live events in Las Vegas where he and Pat Corain were doing all this work for RotoViz, and they were, you know, back then they had one main event team and they did a ton of content with this one main event team. podcasts and they had videos and stuff. And they set up like a live sort of panel out there. And you look at where they are now, and it's just like, oh my goodness, their career is really taken off, you know. And
how long ago was that?
It had to be about 7 years ago, maybe 8. I'd have to look it up. But I do remember they came out there. They drafted one team, and they did some audio stuff, video stuff out there, and it was really awesome. They had a big audience for it. And then after that, you know, a year or two later, man, my goodness, they are just right up there with the titans of the industry right now. Congratulations on them. Of course, Pat Kerrane won $2 million playing fantasy football a couple years ago. That helps build some street cred too. Yeah, exactly. One final question, Scott, on this, on Pros vs. Joes, and then I got a couple of emails here from some listeners, and some viewers. You only get paid out the top spot. Like, you can finish second or third or whatever. You get nothing for that. But first place is the only prize in the Pros versus Joes, where you get the free main event entry for 2026. Do you feel like you're going to take more home run swings in a best ball draft like this, as opposed to some of the other best ball drafts you've been doing?
Yes, absolutely.
And how high does that start up? I mean, did you start swinging for the fences like in round 4 or round 5, or do you wait a little bit? I'm curious as to your thought process on that.
I'm just going to go for the guys that I like, the guys that I know can score points, because that's obviously what this is about. I'm not going to, I know some guys are just tied to ADP, but ADP is just, to me, it's just like where those guys generally get picked. If you like a guy like Mason, let's just take Mason, for instance. If he's going in the 8th round and I like him, I might have to take him in the 7th round. I don't know. It just depends how my build goes, whether I start running back first or wide receiver first.
I want to get to, what time do we have? Yeah, we got time for a couple of emails here.
We got to get the emails in, Balky. They're important.
Yes, they are, because I want to appease the viewers. Art in Suffern, New York. We're going to go to him first here, Scott. He writes, besides Calvin Ridley, are there any other pass catchers that you like in Tennessee? Art, we appreciate that email. What of the Tennessee off? I mean, obviously we know about Ridley there. Who else do you like for Titans pass catchers this year? And none is a fine answer too, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you, in those dynasty leagues, I drafted a lot of Elik Ayomanor. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. But, I feel like he could, by the middle of the year, step in and, maybe take the number 2 role there. I mean, who else do they have there, really?
I mean, Tyler Lockett, who may not make the team. I think there's a non-zero chance that he doesn't make the team. You have Shamir Dike, who used to play for the Badgers at University of Wisconsin before he transferred to Florida. Play with another former Badgers quarterback, Graham Mertz, down there in Gainesville. Yeah, Florida. He's there as well. You do have Chig Okonkwo. I mean, it always seems like there's some Chig Okonkwo fans out there every single year. I don't know. I feel like, and this is going to lead well into the next email that I have for you here, Scott. But I just feel like the Titans have sort of done the opposite of what the Bears did with Caleb Williams in his rookie year, where they had DJ Moore and then they drafted Roma Dunze and then they signed Keenan out. Like, they brought in all these weapons. And I feel like Cam Ward in Tennessee doesn't really have all that many weapons, again, outside of Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, they're just like, show us how good you are, Cam, and then we'll go stock the cupboards for you, right?
Yes, that's true.
Meanwhile, you get Tyler Lockett, who's 31 or 32 years old, and whatever. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you know what it reminds me of is the Glengarry Glen Ross scene, where Alec Baldwin comes in with the new leads, the Glengarry leads for these sales guys, and he's like, yeah, and I could give these to you, but to give them to you would be wasteful because you guys are awful salesmen. So it's like you have to prove that you are a good salesman in order to get the Glengarry reads. Cam Ward needs those Glengarry reads in Tennessee, but he's got to prove that he's worthy of it. And in 2025, we'll see what happens there. Now, a young quarterback that did get some weapon upgrades this year is in New England. And this email comes to us from Cleveland. Lane in Cleveland says, how excited are you for Drake May having a big year with the Patriots? Lane, thank you for the email. Kyle Williams is now there. Stephon Diggs is now there. We know what a big year Hunter Henry had. They've added Travion Henderson. They're adding some weapons in New England, and they also, and I shouldn't give Josh McDaniels short shrift because he's calling the plays there and coordinating the offense there. And they have this young quarterback who was number 3 overall in the draft last year. when you look at Drake May, and Scott, you can expand this answer too if you want to talk about the Patriots offense in general. But what type of year is May going to have, and who's going to be the beneficiaries on this offense?
Well, I love Drake May. I mean, I'm trying to acquire him in as many dynasty leagues as I can. So he is like way high on my radar. All the guys you mentioned, Kyle Williams, I think, is going to be the leading receiver there. I don't know about Diggs. Diggs is 31 years old. He's coming off an ACL. They say he looks good. He might be ready for year number 1, but let's just wait and see. Travion Henderson, I think, is going to be catching passes out of the backfield. I don't think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be pushed to the side as much as people are thinking at this point. So I'm really high on New England in general. And the one thing is Vrabel is going to have that defense playing, balls out. So I feel like New England could be a surprise team in the AFC East. I'm not saying they're going to win it, past Buffalo, but they're not going to be in the basement for sure.
And Adam Hahn says we're sleeping on Kayshon Boutte. We should bring that up as well. He also mentioned, getting back to the Tennessee conversation, Xavier Restrepo, who had a really, really good final year at Miami with Cam Ward. Restrepo was his favorite target there.
About that.
Yes. I can't remember who did this. I think it was on the FF Dynasty show. And they were called. They started calling, after the combine performance for Restrepo, they started calling him Xavier a step slow because he was not fast at all. Did not go drafted. And I'm sure that's
hard. Exactly.
But he's another guy too. Like, especially the type of player that you are with Restrepo. I don't know if you necessarily need to be the fastest player in the world. You just had a knack for getting open, and it does help. It
definitely helps. Yeah. I think those guys will tear up the scout team on Wednesday afternoons.
Yeah,
but Adam Hahn's been on fire. He's had a lot of good stuff in here tonight. Man.
Adam Hahn's a smart guy.
All right, Scott. George Thurgood asked the question to everybody, and I'm going to direct that question to you. We got big drafts coming up. Who do you love? Who do you love, Scott?
Early, middle.
No, don't think about it, Scott. Just tell me, who do you love?
Well, and Scott, I'll tell you what. If you want to frame it that way, you could say who you target in the early rounds. You can say who you target in the mid rounds, and give us one that you like in the late rounds.
George Thurgood never asked that. All he asked was, "Who do you love?"
Okay,
we're asked. Listen, here's the thing, Scott. We're asking for one player. But I'm not going to stop you if you want to give us several. That's fine. If you are in love with more than one player.
He's a dynasty player. Scott, how many dynasty teams do you have?
56.
You're in love with the whole damn league. What are you talking
FFPC,
about?
I have 56.
What are you talking about? Balky, let's go a second hour. Who do you love, Scott? Tell us, brother.
Okay. Number one, I don't think Detroit is going to fall off the cliff like a lot of people are thinking because they lost both coordinators. So I still love Jamison Williams. I think he's going to expand his role, and he's going to be even better this year than he was last year. I know they lost Ben Johnson. And along that line, with Ben Johnson going to Chicago, a couple guys that I think are really going to blossom in Chicago are Odunze and Luther Burden. I mean, I'm kind of thinking Luther Burden could be kind of a Amon-Ra light, but no offense to you, Luther Burden. Okay.
Just real quick on that Bears thing. If you like Odunze and if you like Burden, does that mean you are down on DJ Moore and perhaps maybe Colston Loveland as well?
Well, a little bit, two different answers on those guys. Number one, I mean, Loveland's got the shoulder injury, so I don't know what's going on with that. I'm hearing more and more about the shoulder with him. And DJ Moore, I've heard some stuff about his focus, I guess, to put it kindly. So those are the two receivers that I do like the most in Chicago, are Odunze and Luther Burden, absolutely. And I have found myself trying to trade off DJ Moore and Colston Loveland. I mean, I've drafted him a few times, but, I'm a little scared to keep taking him right now until training camp gets rolling and I can see what kind of work they're putting in.
To ask the second part of the question here too, and I'll frame it this way. Who's a player, or maybe a couple players, that you are going to let the pros draft on Sunday night?
Ooh.
A player that you can tell us right now unequivocally, Balky, Ferrell, there's no way that these guys will land on my Pros versus Joe's team.
And I had that as a two-part question, Balky. But
sorry.
I wanted to say McCaffrey, but I don't know. That might be the part about swinging for the fences. But I'm not taking McCaffrey number 4. You can be assured of that. That will not happen. I'm not big on McCaffrey in the second round. I'm trying to think of who usually goes in the second round that I would take Derrick Henry. I do feel like Derrick Henry is going to just run wild this year, actually. Because, at the end of the year, he was doing better than he was at the beginning of the year because I think they got some stuff wrinkled out in their offense, and he's going to really produce this year, Derrick Henry.
I think we lost somewhere along the line. We lost that question. Balky, can I come back in and take another shot at it?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Over your right shoulder is a picture, Balky. What does that picture depict over there?
What,
over
right here?
Right. Your
my right.
Your right shoulder.
So you're looking at here?
Yeah.
That is a pencil drawing of Jerry, Elaine, George, and Kramer from the hit TV show Seinfeld.
That's what I know. Now, the trivia question goes to you before we get to Scott tonight. The trivia question goes to you that there was a gym coach that gave George a wedgie and then popularized the term "can't stand you." So can you, Balky, who have your hand on all culture, tell us who the coach was?
Yeah, his name, he was the gym teacher. I don't remember his first name, but I know they referred to him as Mr. Bevilacqua.
Yeah, he's Mr. Heyman, Coach Heyman, Mr.
Coach Heyman. Okay,
Coach Heyman is who he was. So Scott, Balky, that I expected Balky to hit that. I gave him about a 20% chance he didn't get it, but I will give you a bigger percent chance. Who is your can't stand you guy Sunday night?
Oh, my can't stand you guy Sunday
One guy.
night.
One guy. Can't stand you. See, he's in love with everybody, Balky.
Yeah,
I told you earlier. It's 56 times he's got every league player on every team. It's great. It's great.
I don't know.
One guy, Scott. Can't stand you.
Well, I don't want to say McCaffrey. That's too easy. I don't know who it is.
You keep answering McCaffrey to every question. We got to get you off that. Do you one?
I know. Okay,
who is
I
it?
got a guy. I don't own any of this guy in any of these leagues. I don't think Puka Nacua. I'm just not sold on him. I know.
Adam Hahn agrees. He said the Pros can have Puka Nacua.
Wow.
When they draft
this. Well, Eric said Adam is very intelligent. So.
He is a smart guy. He's a smart guy.
That's good.
What? Just curiously, is it like, okay, so I've drafted Nacua, I think, in one league so far this year, and it was a FOMO pick. I just had to get him somewhere just in case. But the way he plays the game, I don't want to like predict injuries or anything like that, but that guy has no respect for his own body, and I think it comes to his own detriment sometimes. That I just think he's going to miss time. And then who benefits? The Matthew Stafford and Devontae Adams show, which
exactly. Adams is going to benefit for sure, regardless. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
All right, so just to clear things up here, Ferrell. Normally, I know my Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. Mr. Heyman was the gym teacher. You are right? Mm-hmm. But later on in the series, there was an episode where Jerry was going to race his old high school rival, Duncan Meyer. And the guy who was the gym teacher who fired the gun at the starting line, or who didn't, as it were, that was Mr. Bevilacqua. Mm-hmm. Both of these characters were gym teachers of George and Jerry, but they were apparently different years or something. So I got it.
Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to knock on the door and try to reclaim that picture. You are still the boss of Seinfeld, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, that who my can't stand you player is, and I once put him in a lineup and he scored over 40 points for me. Player I will not touch, and I think the rest of fantasy football will join me in this. Mac Hollins. Ever since he showed up dressed as Fred Flintstone, I drew the line under Mac Hollins. No more Mac Hollins.
And refuses to wear shoes as well.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Interesting cat. Scott, listen, we have taken up way too much of your time. This was so much fun for us to hang out with you tonight. We wish you not only good luck in the rest of the drafting season, but good luck on Pros versus Joes. I'm going to send all the draft participants a link to join the show for like 5 minutes, 6 minutes or whatever on Sunday night. So if you're drafting your team, you want to hop aboard, make a pick or two on the air, we'd love to have you on because you certainly were a treat tonight, man. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, and I will see you guys at the live event drafts in September because I will be there.
Yeah,
all right.
There you go.
Have
Scott,
a good
we'll
night.
see you then. Thank you. Scott Fritz, ladies and gentlemen, two-time FFPC league champ, drafting in the Pros versus Joe's Nirvana division Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll have that for you right here on the FFPC socials. And a guy that will probably join us, I would think, on Sunday for a few minutes, and we'll see him
He's
out.
on a roll. He's coming back in.
Yes, we'll see him at Paris Casino too. Paris Resort and Casino when we have the drafts out there too in Las Vegas.
I'm going to invite him to Kentucky because it looks like he wants to just go everywhere. He goes to Green Bay and he goes to Vegas.
Your long lost cousin Bentley Ferrell has already chimed in. He's the best guest. He's like Norm Macdonald on Conan, and Norm Macdonald was pretty good on
like
Conan.
Norm on Conan. No, if he was like Norm on Conan, he'd still be here.
That
he would take it over there. He would have, when you would have asked him about what he's doing in Vegas, he would have said, well, I came out on the plane.
That's true. I've been watching a lot of since Norm Macdonald passed away. I've fallen down the YouTube Norm Macdonald compilations. God, just such a brilliant guy. Brilliant guy.
The best show, the best one ever was on Conan with Courtney Thorne-Smith.
Yes, I watched that one the other night. We're talking about the Carrot Top movie.
Yeah, we're talking about the Carrot Top.
That was legendary. I like
all his poison.
Right. Right in front of her. I mean, I wonder if Courtney Thorne-Smith has ever been asked about that interview later on.
Oh, she's got to love it.
And for anybody, I think I said this on the show after Norm had passed away last year or whatever it was. I said, do yourselves a favor, just take 5-10 minutes out of your schedule and go on YouTube and search Norm Macdonald Conan moth joke. That is one of the best. And then you have these weird Canadian stories that he has. It's just a brilliant storyteller.
They told him to quit talking about OJ, and he doubled down on OJ.
He just kept going. Oh, and then you know what I watched the other night, Ferrell, was it was a big deal back then after he got fired from Weekend Update, but they still kept him on the show to do sketches and stuff, which honestly was never Norm Macdonald's forte. So he gets fired from that. He did an interview on The Late Show with David Letterman. And Letterman just kept pushing him to try to talk bad about Don Olmeyer, and he wouldn't do it. But that was a very interesting interview too, because it was the first time he had addressed being fired from Weekend Update, and he's right up there with one of the greatest update guys ever, maybe the greatest update guy ever.
There's only one guy that could pick up that torch and move forward in interviewing people, and that would be you. You're going to have to flee the boundaries of Wisconsin, but you could run. You could run a late night show. You could run a late night show. The rest of them are going broke, but you, sir, run one.
Well, listen, I if you're looking to bankrupt your late night show faster than Stephen Colbert could, I'm your guy. I just get Ferrell. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You would do great, Bo.
This is our quasi late night show here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, which we're going to be doing a lot more of these next couple of weeks with Pros versus Joes. I should remind everybody, KFFSC.com is where to go to sign up for the live events, not only in Northern Kentucky, but in Louisville as well. Northern Kentucky, dude, we're like less than a month away from those live events going off. There's still a precious few spots available in those main events. Online stuff is going on, the Sweet 16 championship too as well. And I looked at this the other day. We still have a couple of spots left in some live big paybacks in Louisville. And, the auctions are already full. Okay, so those filled up. So main events, KFFSC. Is there anything I'm forgetting about at KFFFC.com where these people should be going to register?
No, and if you're just getting into drafting, or if you want some extra exposure, the $100 Best Ball Tournament is working its way to its fruition. There's 3 divisions left, the $3,000 grand prize, and a lot of fun to take a trip before we get to Louisville. We're opened up. Some of the guys that haven't made their plans to come to Louisville and may not, since we're getting so closely. There is a big payback league that goes off at 4:30 on Sunday, the 20. Is that the 24th?
25th.
Oh, yes.
I think it's 25th.
Sunday the 20. I believe it's 24. I don't know.
No, you're right. I'm an idiot. It is 25th.
Whatever the hell Sunday is, we're going to have some virtual drafters at 4:30. Then that would be Big Payback 5. And if you would like to join that, just call me. We'll have to make some special arrangements and tell you how it breaks down. But we've got some spots available there. But yeah, the auctions are sold out. Most of Friday is sold out. We're going to accommodate a lot of drafters online, but we still have room for you to come and get in a full schedule for the weekend. And we're going to call Scott and my cousin Bentley Ferrell, see what we can get worked out with that.
And I chances are, if you're drafting in Louisville, you'll be drafting at the same time as me. You might even be in my same draft. So
you are going around the clock, brother, and I'm proud of that.
I want to try it. I thought 10 was a lot in one weekend. We're going to go for 14 this year, and I'm pumped for it, man. I'm very excited.
You can do it. You can do it. We just said you could do anything. You can do it. And hey, Bill Hollywood came in and he asked where Permar is. Permar is not a Joe and he's not a pro and he hasn't been seen. So I don't
know. I hope he's okay. I've not seen.
Yeah, he'll get back in here. He'll get back in here.
All right. With that, Ferrell, I bid you adieu. I will talk with you not next Friday, but I'll talk with you this Sunday evening for Pros versus Joes 1, my friend.
What time are we going to get started, Bob?
8 p.m. is when the draft starts. We will start our broadcast promptly at 8 o'clock as well.
Can I do a little ad? Can I do a little promo?
Please, absolutely.
I will be joining on the Fantastic Sirius XM. I think it's channel 87 Fantasy Sports. James Adams and Dan Claskins this Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's a very important show to do for one reason. That show sent us a few years ago when I did it. It sent us one Ira Berman. So, it doesn't get much better than that.
1 p.m., Fantastics Insider Football, Claskins and Adams, guys who played in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. I think, didn't James Adams win the whole thing one year?
James Adams is a champion.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So make sure you're listening to that Sirius XM.
Much to Claskin's disgruntlement.
Yeah, sure it was. Yeah. Ferrell, we'll talk with you Sunday. Thanks so much, man. Always a blast.
See you, brother.
That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. KFFSC.com is where to go, and then check him out at 1 p.m. this Saturday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Okay, I want to thank him, Ferrell Elliott. I want to thank Scott Fritz, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. We will be back 8 o'clock with Pros versus Joes coverage. The next Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of this coming week, we'll be with you. The following Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week, we will be with you as well for all 6 of these live Pros versus Joes drafts. We get things underway at 8 o'clock Sunday night in the Nirvana division. The Joes will include, but not limited to, Rick Raymaker, Andy Rule, tonight's guest, Scott Fritz, Brian Myers, who I believe is in Australia. I think he's drafting from Australia. I don't know. I don't quote me on that, but I think he is. Fantasy Sopranos, you saw him in the chat tonight. Stephen Urgalos and his co-manager Michael Reddy will be drafting. Longtime FFPC player Chris Carlson, former guest of this show, and then another former guest of the show. Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein will also be drafting. Those are the Joes. The Pros, the late round quarterback himself, J.J. Zacharyson, Peter Oberzet, Todd Burrows, Jeff Manns, Bob Lung, who was last night's guest on the FFPC Insider Access show, last night's co-host. Check that out on the FFPC and BSN socials in case you missed that. That's a lot of fun. He is the co-founder of the Fantasy Football Expo, which is going on August 8th through 10th. Get your tickets now at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. He'll be drafting Sunday night, and then the final pro will be Tyler Bucher from Fantasy Guru. He will be on as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check that out. The show, the Insider Access show that I mentioned with Bob Lung last night, we're going to go live again this coming Thursday with Ryan Kramer, the co-host of the Sports Gambling Podcast, and he's also drafting in the Pros versus Joes this year as well, so we'll get his thoughts on that. Big Gorilla Tournament, Main Event, Best Ball Tournament, Superflex Best Ball Tournament, and Dynasty Leagues, all going on at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. I need a drink of water. I apologize for my coughing at the end, but I think it was a great show tonight. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you did too. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
So the walk-off I'll have tonight, Adam Hahn just pointed this out on YouTube. Will I point out the pros teams versus the Joes teams on Sunday night? Yes, it's going to be very easy to follow along. The way that Darren Armani sets this up every year, each draft, all the pros will be the odd teams or the even teams, and then vice versa, and he switches it for every draft. So, for instance, Sunday night's draft, all the odd-numbered draft teams, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, those are all the pros teams. The even-numbered teams will be the Joes, the 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, and 12 squads. And you'll be able to see the board will be on the screen. It will be easy to follow along. We don't want to make this a chore for you. We want to make it enjoyable, and we will have a lot of fun. And it starts 8 o'clock Sunday night as we kick off 2025 Pros versus Joes season. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you hanging out and spending your Friday nights with us. It only gets better from here, baby. We will talk with you again Sunday evening.